Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's episode, we speak to the one and only Simon Squibb. Simon Squibb is an angel investor and an entrepreneur. He speaks to us about the broken education system and how he would fix it, whilst also starting off from the rock bottom being homeless. So this truly is meaningful.
And we also want to thank you for your continuous support of the podcast on YouTube and on Spotify. And also, if you are enjoying our content, please consider liking and subscribing so it can push our content out to more listeners. But anyway, enjoy the video. Hello there, Simon. Would you mind introducing yourself for the people who don't know who you are?
Sure. My name is Simon Squibb. I'm an angel investor. I've invested in 78 businesses. I have started personally 19 companies, and I left school at 15 years old with nothing and learned to build a company from scratch. And today I am the founder and CEO of a platform called Help Bank, with the basic premise that you can go there and get help for free. And the platform pays you to also help people for free. I have 5.1 million followers on social media. And my mission today ultimately is to try and fix the education system and help people help people.
That's
Alright.
amazing, Simon. So what was your first company that you started?
I had an unfortunate start to my entrepreneur career. I lost my father suddenly when I was 15 years old. He had a heart attack. And then not long after, I had an argument with my mum and she kicked me out of home. And I tried to get a job and I couldn't get a job. And through desperation, I remember walking past a big house and they had a messy garden. And I thought to myself, well, maybe they'll pay me to tidy up their garden. So I knocked on the door and just said, hi, my name's Simon Squibb. I've got a gardening company, which I didn't have. And I'd like to take care of your garden. And they said, sure. How much? I just picked a number at the time, £200 a month. And they said, sure, let's give it a go for 1 month and see what it's like. And that's it. I started a company, a gardening company, from nothing. I didn't have a brochure. I didn't have a website. I had no sales training. I didn't know how to garden, to be honest. So I just through sheer desperation managed to start a business because I couldn't get a job. So that was lucky. And I was forced into an uncomfortable situation to sell and learn that you can make an idea in your head happen. Something school never taught me. And I started a gardening business. That was my first ever company, to answer your question.
So we know you want to fix the education system. Where would you start? What's your ideal system?
Well, I think for me, the first step is just giving everyone access to knowledge. You know, it's a very simple idea. I mean, that's all education is in school. It's access to knowledge. So I think it's making sure the knowledge, the accessible knowledge, is relevant to the real world. So access to knowledge. I think the other part of it is helping people, particularly parents, actually, I think, realize that the best way to educate is to follow your kids' interests, as opposed to, like, you know, the school system breaks things into history, biology, maths. I just don't think it's the right way to learn. Like, for example, my son, who I homeschool, he loves maps, road maps, and he's completely obsessed with the road map system. So we're talking about the M25 in England, for your listeners overseas that maybe don't know what the M25 is, the main road that goes around London. And my son wanted to know how it got built. So we looked into it, and it ended up being about politics and how it almost got blocked. It ended up being about finance and how the money was raised for it. It became about different people's opinions and why it should or should not get built. And he learned about geography. He learned about maths. He learned about history. He learned about politics. All of these things are not separate subjects. So I think it's realizing that they're not separate subjects. So my idea for education is more like access to knowledge, and then allow people to learn around subjects that interest them, and almost to a point saying, don't learn the things you don't enjoy. You know, if you don't enjoy maths, don't study economics. You know, like don't go and end up being disappointed with yourself. Lead into the things you love.
Alright. So do you think that that style of learning is more effective than school?
Well, school doesn't do that. School teaches you to learn in silos. I mean, everything school teaches you is opposite to the real world, right? School tells you to sit down and shut up and conform. You don't want to do that in the real world, you won't stand out. The school system tells you do this exam, memorize something, sit down on your own and write it all down. That's not how it works in the real world. You know, like memorization, first of all, we've got Google. I mean, you just don't need that. You don't need to use your memory to remember that stuff. Unless you're going to do a pub quiz and try to win the pub quiz, you don't really need to remember it. I think you need to use your memory on the skill that you love. So, you know, I love business. I've used my memory to understand how to raise money. I've used my memory on how to build a brand. I've used my memory on how to sell. I don't want to learn, you know, by memorization stuff that isn't relevant to what I want to do every day. So I think the school system is, you know, just do everything opposite to what the school system tells you to do. Collaborate with people. Don't sit on your own and do something. You know, figure out how you can stand out, how you can be different. That's how you make sure that what you're doing in life gets noticed. You know, like the school system, just the memorization thing in particular, it really, you know, A students are seen as the smartest kids in school. But in the real world, most A students end up working for D students. 80% of A students end up working for D students. So what does that tell you? Are they the smartest people in the room? Yes, sometimes. But equally, they're also the most conditioned. They're the most trainable. They're the ones that will go to work every day and do what they're told because they don't want to get a B. They don't want to get a C. They're scared of failure. And actually, really successful people embrace failure every day. And you know, I just think the whole concept of like you get an A, you're smart is missing a lot of nuance. And so I don't think the school system is designed to give people freedom. I think the school system is designed to make people do what they're told.
Yeah, myself and Kian do opposite of what the school system encourages us, because obviously we've been listening to you for a long time, and us having this podcast, obviously that makes us stand out. Teachers are saying, oh, you know, go onto a podcast, but don't discuss certain topics, don't do this, don't do that. So they're trying to control, but we do the opposite of that.
I think that's the way. You know, there will be some people listening to this podcast that the school system, it suits them. You know, there are certain professions as well. Unfortunately, because the school asks you the wrong question, what you're going to do when you grow up is what they ask you. What will you do? That is the wrong question. The question that should open up people's minds that you should ask a 6-year-old is, what problem do you want to solve? Because then you can have multiple careers. But in reality, the school system, in particular university, has become a business. And so they want you to go to university. That's how they make money. So, and university sells you this idea of like, well, you got to become a doctor or a lawyer, you have to go to university, which is true. So now, you know, like Tesla wouldn't get a job at Tesla. The whole system's been created that if you want to go into certain professions, you've got no choice but to go to university. It's not a choice anymore. So I kind of, you know, I accept that for some people listening, they're going to have to go to university. It annoys me, but it's just the way the system's built right now. And until the system has been rebuilt to accommodate different thinking, that is the system you have to follow if you want to become a doctor or a lawyer. But if you want to do marketing, like I interviewed someone the other day, they've been doing 4 years marketing at university. They've got £50,000 worth of debt. I sit them down, I say, right, what are the 5 ways you can make money on TikTok? No idea. How does Instagram Shorts work? No idea. How is Instagram monetizable? No idea. These are marketing things. Not taught. They were taught about why a .com failed in 1999. Who cares? You know, it's not taught by people that have built businesses, unless you're at the pristine universities like Harvard. Even then, they bring me in to do the talks and stuff that's actually happened in the real world.
All right. So why do you think that the school system is kind of teaching these children like specific things? Do you think it's to like breed workers?
I think it's a complex answer as to why the education system is as it is. I would say number one, it's money, right? It's money. It's all about money. How to make money out of people, how to turn people into batteries so that they can make money for people. It's also a condition of control, because if everyone is free thinking, then who's going to pick up the rubbish in the streets, and who's going to do the things that, you know, no one else wants to do, right? So there's an element of control. But I think, you know, ultimately it's hard to build a system for millions of people that is ever going to work for everybody. So they don't want it to work for everybody at this point. It's just like, it's literally something's better than nothing mentality. And school is basically free childcare. You know, for a lot of people, it's literally a place I can put your kid while you go to work and earn the money to, you know, pay for life. You know, it's just become an arrangement, and it's not been modernized for 100 years. I mean, we all know that people should be taught financial literacy, but so why is it not being taught? Why is it still being called maths? I've got a calculator for maths, and the only conclusion I can draw is that it's broken for a reason, you know, and it's a complex reason, combination of making money, creating a slave mentality mindset of the people that do conform, the people that do shut up, the people that do sit down, do what they're told, don't collaborate with others, sit on the factory line, do what you're told. It is designed to do that. But I believe we're waking up. I think people, thanks to social media, thanks to awareness of this experiment for the last 100 years by Carnegie and Henry Ford, this experiment of education, people are realizing that there's another way to educate yourself. You know, you can go on YouTube, watch my YouTube video and learn more about business than any business MBA will ever teach you. You know, so why spend 4 years learning something when you can learn it on YouTube in 2 hours and 26 minutes?
Yeah, I've watched your video and it is amazing, Simon. It's really helped us open our mind to the idea of business. So me and Kian sat down and watched your video for quite a while, and we found it very useful. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for helping us actually, you know, help us start the podcast, because myself and Kian found you on TikTok, and we seen you go up to someone and ask, "What's your dream?" And myself and Kian thought, you know, we want to do a podcast, so it's all good sitting down and speaking about it, but it's about actually starting it. So you are the reason for that, so we want to thank you.
Well, you learned something and you applied it in the real world, and it does make you stand out. It does make you different. The network you're building by doing this alone, you know, like, people just don't realize how easy it is to be in control of your own destiny. And thank you for saying that. It makes me feel like I'm having an impact, and you know, it's you should be proud of yourselves.
Thank you.
So this is relating to the whole your social media thing where you ask people what their dreams are. Why did you actually start that?
Well, I started out 5 years ago. I sold my company, and I wanted to go back to that 15-year-old me and help myself, right? That 15-year-old kid who was alone, had no real life education, no business education, and help them. So originally, the first thing I did was a podcast. And a bit like you guys starting out, I had to ask people, the first guest or the second guest, no one knew who I was back then. And what I wanted to do was just very similar to what you guys are doing. I just wanted to get knowledge out there in the world from other people that had knowledge to people that needed it. And so a podcast seemed like the easiest first step. I actually did 200 episodes of that podcast. It was called The Good Luck Club. And I wanted to explore, in part, like, why some people make it and why some people don't. And I managed to get some amazing guests on that podcast, some really successful people. And it was interesting because I am a successful person myself, and we had difference of opinions on how you can become successful. And some people actually said you should go to university. And it was good to have those healthy debates instead of just Simon Squibb talking head saying this is what you should do. I liked having different opinions. I liked having people that had got their different ways, so that people could relate to their story. And just because Simon Squibb says university is a waste of time, it doesn't mean it's right. And so I liked that podcast, and that was my first step, kind of, I used to call it mentorship in a podcast, because everyone wants a mentor, right? So you go listen to those podcasts I created, and they're free mentorship. So I started there, but then I started going live on channels. I first was quite active on Clubhouse. You guys probably don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
And
during COVID.
yeah, and I started to have like rooms on Clubhouse with other successful entrepreneurs, where we'd have like 1,000 people in a room. And the questions that people were asking me were very basic, fundamental questions, like, how to sell, which is all teachable, by the way. Everybody listening to your podcast right now, everybody can sell. Everybody. I don't care if you're an introvert, you're scared of people. It doesn't matter. You can sell. Sales is a system. It can absolutely be taught. And I noticed in that room just how many people didn't have the basic knowledge. So I started making videos just on basic knowledge, sharing, how to build a brand or how to sell. And those videos did quite well. And then I started doing lives. And the lives, people would ask me questions. I'm live on TikTok now. There's 390 people in the room right now. And, people would ask questions and I would answer them. And then one day I brought someone up on the live, and I was going quite deep on their problems. And then suddenly on the screen, a little dancing bear came on, right? And I was like, what's that? And then a rose came on the screen, and I didn't know what it was. And then when I closed the live, I'd made £150 from the live. And I was like, wow, how did that happen? And I realized that TikTok had added this gift function that allowed you to make money. And, I've always tried to not make money out of helping people. And I run a model in my life called give without take. So not give and take. I think give and take, the model give and take, has caused wars, caused millions of people not to get help that they deserve, and probably caused a lot of personal pain for people. I think give and take is part of the problem. We think that's normal. I help you if you help me. It's not normal. It's not how we're naturally built. So I live on this model called give without take, where I help people without any expectation of anything in return. So when I closed the live and made money, it was both kind of exciting and weird. And I decided that I was going to give the money away. So I went for lunch and I walked into a supermarket, and a lady was filling up the counter with all the food. And she was looking quite bored, just putting the stuff on the shelf. And I just turned to her and I said, hey, what's your dream? And she looked at me weirdly and then stood up, and then her eyes like lit up as she started to describe to me her dream. And I remember it very clearly. It was a whole dream about like wanting to open up an old people's home. She'd had a relative die alone in a house, and she didn't think that was right, that anyone should die alone. And she wanted to open up a home where people would never die alone. It was very emotional. It really kind of got me. And I said to her at the end of that conversation, here's £100. I want to put a deposit down to be the first customer of your old people's home, because I'm going to get old. We're all going to get old, right? And and from that moment, I just realized that people have dreams, and they just need someone to believe in their dreams and hear their dreams and maybe give them a few first step pointers. And so straight after that, because I didn't actually pick any lunch up in the supermarket, I went to Pizza Express. And this time I thought to myself, I wish I'd filmed what I just heard, because I can put it up online and get her more help. So this time I filmed it. When I walked into Pizza Express, I asked the young man there who was working there what his dream was, and he told me it. And I put the video up and it went viral, and the rest is history, as they say. Like, I realized that you can use social media for social good, and that the social media can have a place in lifting people up and inspiring people. It doesn't have to just be this, here's my Lamborghini, here's my big house, here's what I had for lunch, mental health problem. I think it can actually be used to really make a difference in people's lives. And I have seen it. Thousands of people now, I've asked them what their dream is, put it up online, and people are being helped by the people in the community. Comments of where people have got funded in the comments. People have got their products sold out online. You know, it's just been amazing to be able to build a platform that is about helping people. And so that's how it all started, to answer your question.
I constantly see social good all the time on your TikTok lives. As you know, I'm always over there. I see people asking questions, and the a fun thing is, I didn't have a mic for one of the first episodes, so Robin Waite commented, and he sent over a mic, the Logitech camera. So he supported me, myself, and Kian. So honestly,
Amazing.
he
This is
he
what I mean. Like, you don't have a mic. Robin Waite on Helpbank, I paid him £5,000 to help on Helpbank. He was the most active person on helpbank.com and earned £5,000 in 1 month for helping on Helpbank. And you know, he didn't do it for the money. So as soon as he got the money, he's been giving it away. He's been in the community helping people. You know, like it. This is what I'm talking about. Like, a stranger can help you get your podcast going. Now I'm a guest on your podcast. Now, you know, now you're growing your own brand and own platform. You know, like, we can do it together. That's what I think is the future. A community driven education and support platform is what I see helpbank.com as. So it really makes me happy to hear that someone in the community, Robin is not only a kind person, he's also very knowledgeable. You know, like it's just special.
Right. So back to your first podcast. Do you know do you know who these people are? Like, are you able to tell us who they are? You know, what they did?
The first podcast episodes I did, yeah. So the first podcast episode I did was with my wife, who built a business with me. We actually built a company called Fluid together. We worked on it together for 15 years. And that company is the company I sold to PricewaterhouseCoopers for more money than I'll ever need. So she built that company with me. And so she was my first guest. And yeah, she was awesome. Very knowledgeable, talking about, you know, what it's like to be a woman in business, sharing her insights on building a company with a nutter like me. And yeah, so she was the first episode. I think the second episode was actually my personal trainer. He was he's still a friend. I actually moved away to where he personally trains now, so I don't live near where he trains. But you know, he's built a business, a personal training business. A lot of people maybe don't see personal training as a business, so he shared his knowledge on that. And then slowly but surely, I managed to get bigger names on. I mean that with all due respect to my wife, you know, people that people know in business on. But honestly, those early days, sometimes the people that you don't know have some of the most interesting stories. It's not the famous people, you've heard their story a million times. I actually really like interviewing people that have done it with no money and, you know, despite their what people perceive as their weaknesses, have succeeded. Like, I have dyslexia. When I was at school, people used to say I was stupid. I'm not stupid, quite the opposite. And I like that idea that, you know, school kind of tells you that because you can't read properly, you're an idiot. And you go out there in the world and you prove them wrong. In fact, it turns out dyslexia is a superpower for me. And I think, yeah, a lot of the guests I've had on, the ones I've enjoyed, are always the ones where, you know, they actually have just a great story. It doesn't matter that they're famous or not.
I see where you're coming from because at the age of 7, I couldn't read nor write, and where I am now with my uncle and auntie, they taught me every single day how to read and write. Now I'm ahead in quite a few classes. Myself and Kim have got a podcast. So people who says it defines you, it really doesn't. It does the opposite. It gives you fuel to keep on fighting.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I think sometimes with these things, you know, you kind of, people need to realize that whatever their weakness is, again, they're told at school, whatever your weakness is actually your strength later. Again, it's what makes you stand out.
Right. So you were on about your first episode about, you know, you and your wife starting Fluid. What is Fluid for the people who don't know?
So Fluid, the way I describe it to people in the industry is like it's a McKinsey with an execution part. But if you don't know who McKinsey is, it's basically a strategy creative agency. So a company like CNN would say to us, how do we get more people to watch CNN in China? And then we would come up with a strategy to help businesses get noticed. And part of that would be branding, part of that would be marketing strategy. So, in some ways, it's described as a creative agency, but that's a very broad term. But we would help people make their businesses work, basically.
So your current business, Help Bank, are you able to obviously explain what it is? I'm pretty sure you briefly explained it earlier, but are you able to explain it to people who don't know?
Helpbank.com, I hope, is the second option for people. Instead of going to university, they could use Helpbank to learn what they need and start a business of their own. Instead of getting into £50,000 worth of debt and spending 4 years of your life on something that doesn't actually give you what you need and makes you just like everybody else, I wanted to give some people a free resource, another option. It's not that yet. It's not a replacement for university yet, but it's getting there. Right now, it's a place you can go and get help for free. You can ask a question, and the 150,000 people on the platform and the AI can help you. You can also go into the resources section and learn for free business stuff, everything from how to build a brand to how to SEO your site, all of that sort of stuff for free. And it's also a place you can go and get paid to help people.
Right.
So it's not there yet. It's 1 year old, but we're slowly building out a community and a platform where the focus is help each other. The focus on LinkedIn is flex, look how great I am. Instagram is like, look how beautiful I am. We want Helpbank to be, we're here to help each other. What can we do to help each other today?
Amazing. All right. So it's kind of like a quotation mark school for like specialized towards business owners.
That's one way to put it. I mean, I sometimes describe it as a competitor to LinkedIn, but you go there to help each other. That's probably the way I describe it.
And
Make it
honestly,
simple.
it's growing massively for a company that's one. That's
Yeah,
really impressive.
thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, there's 20 years to go before that platform will be what I think it needs to be. But we need a replacement or an option other than university for young people.
All right. So for the people who want to, let's say, build themselves up or start some form of business, how would they go about doing it?
I think businesses should be led by what you enjoy doing, just like the education model. You should think about what it is you like doing, and then how can you monetize it. So, if, for example, you like walking dogs, then start a dog walking business. Maybe you get satisfaction from mowing the grass, then start a gardening business. Maybe you enjoy painting, figure out how to sell paintings or build a business that involves you being able to paint all day. Like most businesses that I've started, there's no such thing as no competition, right? There's always going to be competition. And I think the best way to win against competition is to do something that you love. So every business that I've ever started, I've enjoyed it. Like many businesses started in Hong Kong doing creative stuff, marketing structure stuff, but we became one of the biggest companies in Asia because I just loved it. I loved helping people with their businesses. Sometimes we did stuff for no money. It didn't matter. Whereas other people would only do it, because they get money. And they closed shop. They gave up when they didn't get as much money as they thought they were going to get. Like it's so underappreciated, this concept of like, it's all. In fact, yesterday I asked someone what their dream was, and they said their dream was to be a music producer. And in the same breath, they said, "Oh, but I know I can't make any money at that, so I'll probably do a normal job." I'm like, no. What if you've got a passion for helping people make music, then just learn how to make money. Don't dismiss it as I can't do that. Oh, I've got to get a real job. That's just silly. I know. Like focus on something you love and monetize it.
Do you think that myself and Kian could monetize this podcast instead of going into a real job?
Yes, you can. The only thing I would say to you is, if you're going to monetize a podcast, it takes time. So you need to do other things to make money in the meantime.
Like a side hustle?
Yeah, it could be a side hustle, or it could just be something until the podcast makes money. Like, I think there's all sorts of different ways to do it. So, for example, you could make this podcast a live event, and people will pay to come and listen to me talk. I've already filled up rooms doing it. I'm not being egotistical. I did an event recently, 500 tickets sold out at Box Park. There's no reason why you can't do the podcast live and maybe charge tickets, right? It doesn't have to be a side hustle. In other words, nothing to do with a podcast, but you can, you'll make real money in the long term from podcasts when you're getting huge downloads, when you're getting brand sponsors because you're getting huge downloads. But it's hard to make money out of a podcast at the beginning. So, frankly, on the other side of it, it's like, I don't know much about you guys, but like, just as an example, I would clean windows and start a window cleaning business until my podcast worked. It might not seem related, but like, you guys actually building a business, doesn't matter what it is, gardening company, window cleaning, car washing, online selling something, it doesn't matter. You're learning business when you're doing these things, right? And so it's like, it might not be that you end up having the UK's biggest window cleaning business. Who cares? It's just, you can make 50 quid in North London for cleaning people's windows, and it takes 20 minutes. So get 100 customers, and then that'll fund your life, and you can do the podcast, and maybe even become friends with the people you're cleaning the windows for, and they let you do the podcast from their big house in North London, and your location changes. I'm just making this up, but I'm just trying to give some examples. But like, I think sometimes people are too short-sighted in, I started something that didn't make money. You got to build it up. I've invested in 78 businesses. When I started my company, I couldn't invest in businesses. I didn't have the spare capital. But then I made a business that made lots of money, and then I used the money I was making from that business to invest in startups. I didn't sit there straight away thinking, I want to invest in startups, but I don't have the money, so I'm not going to do it.
All right. So, do you have any more examples of things, for example, someone who owns a podcast, how other ways they can monetize? Like, you mentioned live streaming and like live events. Are there any others?
Yeah, I didn't mention live streaming. That is a good way to make money. People can support. I think that getting a brand sponsor, getting a company, you got a guitar in the background, right? You want the brand sponsor to be aligned to who you are. Maybe you contact the guitar company and tell them, right now in the background of your podcast is the guitar. You clearly love playing guitar, so it's natural for you. Would they sponsor your podcast? The worst is they say no, but at least you're learning to negotiate and communicate with brands, and you never know, one of them might say yes and give you a couple of £1,000 a month. There you go. Now you've got income.
I think we might be done, actually. That was a really good interview. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and well done, guys. Well done for starting a podcast. I'm proud of you, and I'm excited to see where you go with it all.
Thank you, Simon. We'd love to stay in contact with you as well.
Cool. It's amazing what connecting on TikTok Live can do, right?
Yeah,
From
it
TikTok
really is.
Live to being on your podcast. It's really awesome. I'll just so everyone can see you, because I'm talking on my phone here. Just say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Tell everybody about your podcast if they want to listen.
So if you want to listen to us, you can do so on YouTube by searching Meet the Great. We interview people like Simon who start from rock bottom to gaining success. We do appreciate any support subscribing. Thank you very much.
Well done, guys.
Thank you very much,
Really
Simon.
great. All right. Well, nice to speak to you. And let me know how you get on. And when the podcast comes out, make sure you tag me. I'll share it on my channels. All right.
Thank you very much, Simon.
Thank you very much.
Well done, guys. See you later.
See you later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.